Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today let's test the MANUS together. It is an agentic workflow tool which helps you to complete different tasks. If you saw my previous video, I already showed you some of the use cases published on their official website. So today let's get our hands dirty and try some use cases. I'm Steven. I publish regularly generative AI, large language model, data science contents in YouTube, Spotify, and different social media platforms. Please subscribe to my channels and keep updated. So now let's test some use cases using MANUS. Alright, so the first use case I'm thinking about is to let MANUS analyze Trump administration tariff policies and their impact on Chinese economy using IRF or other economics analytical tools to simulate the short and long-term impact on various economic indicators of China and make a comprehensive report. So at this moment, I can only use the standard mode because I'm not a pro user. Let's see if we can complete this task with the 1000 free credits. Let's send it. Okay, first of all, it focuses on the final results about the comprehensive report, and it starts to separate the task to different steps. First of all, it makes several directories in the virtual environment, and I think it is going to save different information in the virtual environment. Okay, so it also made a to-do list. Then it starts to do the research and gather information. Let's also open the MANUS computer view. Okay, so it starts to browse the different information sources and gather the context of our task. I think in some websites, we cannot scrape the information directly because as you see here, it seems that the tool has been blocked. Now it goes to other information sources. Let's also check this place. Okay, so this is a detailed roadmap of the task. Now we are on step 2. We still have a very long way to go. Let's wait. So another source has been checked. On the left hand side, you can see each detailed action it took. For example, searching, browsing, scrolling down, clicking elements, and so on. And there is a button here where you can take control. I think at this moment, we just let it do the job for us. Okay, I think since I'm not specifying the time span of the research, so it actually goes back to the previous tenure of Trump, which is from 2017 to 2021. So we have been staying in this page of Trump tariffs. It's like a historical timeline for a while. So let's see how it will go after this step. Okay, finally, I think we have reached to the end of this page. It actually takes longer time than I expected because by the look of it, the information extraction on this page should be much faster, I think. Okay, now we are in the page of Wikipedia. This is a very long page, so I suppose we could spend some time reviewing all the contents in Wikipedia page. One thing I think is not very clear is that we do not see the consumption of the credits in real time, so we are not sure when the task could break. By far, we have done several initial steps, and in the meantime, let's also check what are the functionalities we have in this navigation pane. So here we can see we can add the new task. We can add a notification. Now they have the MANUS application we can download. There is also a knowledge button. So I think now the Trump tariff timeline MD file has been created with the complete timeline of the tariffs actions taken by Trump administration. It does not restrict to the current date, but it also goes back to the previous tenure of Trump. And as you see the MD file, we can also see some key features of the tariffs on China. And also we can see there are some sources marking where the informations come from. Now it keeps on updating the MD file. As you can see, now it is editing the file. Additionally, we can see we can attach different files to MANUS. Here we can view all the files in the task. We can add this chat to favorites. And there are additional options like renaming this task, I think. Okay, now we see the update of a to-do list, the to-do.md. Actually, it marks the research phase. I think it considers all the steps are completed. Now I think we are going to the data collection phase, then analysis phase, and then economic modeling phase. The model understands what I mean by RF is an impulse response function, and additional steps are like visualization phase, report compilation phase, and the delivery phase. Okay, it's pretty clear. But at this moment, we are only in the beginning. I would like to make an assumption. Maybe the task will stop at the analysis phase, more or less, although I do not understand how the credit is consumed in real time. But at this moment, I think the task is quite complicated, so maybe we'll stop in the middle. Let's say 50% of the total progress. All right, now it starts coding. I see the data collection program file. So we have a sandbox runtime directory, and we have the data fetching code. Let's take a quick look. Okay, so it will collect the GDP data, GDP growth data, exports data, imports data, manufacturing data, FDI data, and so on. Now it goes to the execution phase. So I think, as we can see until now, the latency is a significant issue of MANUS, and I think also for other agentic tools. Okay, I think there might be some issue of fetching the data, so it actually goes back to edit the program file. Let's see, diff. Okay, so it is updating some of the code, then back into execution. Okay, so as we can see here, the data seems to be successfully saved to JSON files, also CSV file, data collection complete. Okay, but on the left-hand side, there is an authentication issue with Data Bank API, so it is switching to alternative data sources. Okay, the free data source like World Bank is okay to check the historical data, but if we are talking about the data in 2025 and so on, it is usually not available, but you could have some projected data and so on. Let's see which sources it actually checked. World Bank, macro trends, trading economics, our world in data, Wikipedia, and so on. Yeah, the last one shows 2024 estimate and the 2025 projection. So I believe after this operation, the information should be complete. The data should be totally gathered. Okay. Now there is some issue performing the action of browsing. So it is handling the issue. Let's see if we can check the details. No, it is hidden in the backend. Okay, the issue seems to be resolved. Now it goes back to the task. Okay, after a while, it goes to the next information sources. Okay, so I think the data is gathered about the China exports data, and it is written in the MD file in the virtual environment of MANUS. Now we are gathering the GDP data. I think it actually identifies macrotrends.net is a good information source, so it sticks to this single data source and starts getting different data series. Let's take a look at our general progress. We have completed the first two sub-tasks, and now we are staying in the step of gathering data on various economic indicators of China. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more steps to complete after gathering data step is completed. Alright, now it updates the to-do list. I think there are some steps omitted, perhaps, like collect the data on Chinese currency valuation during the period, collect the data on sector-specific impacts like steel, electronics, agriculture. Okay, so on the left-hand side, it says it has completed the data collection phase for analysis of Trump administration tariff policy and their impact on the Chinese economy, and it has gathered the timeline of the policy, Chinese economic indicator data from 2019 to 2023. Now it starts to analyze the short-term impacts of these tariffs on the Chinese economy. Alright, since some of the data are already available, it actually writes the code directly based on the data gathered, and it is going to create some plots. Okay, and you see there is also some common errors like dependency installations and so on. So it will also take some time to resolve such detailed issues during the execution of programs and commands. Okay, and here we can see the counting of the time. I think is about the current step. It's not about the time consumed until now for this whole project. Now it is checking the files saved in the virtual environment. Okay, now we can see there are several plots created. Okay, so we have the GDP data plots, export import, manufacturing output, foreign direct investment. Yeah, looks pretty good. So I think until now, the basic data science job is correctly performed. Let's see how it goes to the next step. Okay, now there are additional plots about year-on-year change. One thing I want to add here is that my analytical request is quite general and not considering additional factors like the tariff policy is not the only factor that impacts the Chinese economy. This is only one aspect of it. There could be different variations of how to describe the task accurately and easy to execute. And in our current case, I think we can see how MANUS is interpreting our general request and break down to details. And as you can see now, executing such high amounts of subtasks could be challenging, and there are some minor issues which could lead to the final inaccuracy of the final output. Another issue could be that now we gathered the economic data, but the data set is just too small. So for the economic modeling part, I assume that there could be less meaningful results, or there could be oversimplified results and conclusions. Okay, now we are seeing that there is a short-term impact analysis MD file, which is drafted as MD file. So there are also some key findings like GDP impacts, trade volumes. Let's first check the GDP impact. I think this is quite important that China's GDP showed relative resilience during the initial tariff implementation, with growth continuing but at a moderate pace. Yeah, it actually goes to very structured analysis, separated by stages. Also in 2020, it identifies the COVID period, which is pretty good. There's also strong rebound and stabilization. And then about the trade volume, it says the data suggests China successfully diverted exports to non-US markets, particularly after the Phase 1 deal in 2020, explaining the strong export recovery in 2021. Okay, but I think we need to check how it gets to this conclusion. Is it directly from the language model, or it checked relevant information source? Because as you can see, there is no structure about the export decomposition. We only see the general data here. Also, there is comment about the manufacturing sector, foreign direct investments. Like a manufacturing sector, it says, for example, initial stage stable, then output surged in 2021. I think that's the post COVID recovery. And the post recovery decline, yeah, which is also correctly depicted here. About foreign direct investments, let's see the conclusion. The pattern suggests the initial investment to circumvent tariffs, followed by significant supply chain restructuring away from China. Okay, in general, makes sense. Correlation with key tariff events. Okay, there are also some additional comments. In general, the structure looks good. Let's see. Okay, then MANUS check the to-do list, and I think analysis phase is not yet completed. So now it goes to the long-term impact analysis. Now we have the package installation issues again. So I think it's inevitable. I think in the sandbox environment, it is very hard to make sure everything is always ready. Until now, we already saw 2 times of the package import error. Okay, now we are seeing the plots about the long-term impacts visualization. I think it actually did some projections. It looks in general good, but I think we need to understand which is the algorithm implemented to do the projection. Okay, I think in the backend it actually directly wrote the data like the projection data directly. We do not see any machine learning pipeline here. Okay, I mean, machine learning pipeline may be too hard for the agentic workflow to handle. So I think the projected data is either using simplified algorithms to calculate, or the model just interpret it as a linear relationship and give us some rough numbers. Let's go to the next step. Okay, there are some additional plots like the trade balance, economic structure change index, economic policy shift index, supply chain relocation index. It's quite interesting. Okay, now the long-term impact analysis report has been drafted in MD file format, similar to the short-term analysis. For the long-term analysis, it incorporated more about the projections. And for example, like here, the structural transformation, it actually projected that there will be a profound transformation of China's economic structure in response to tariff pressures. But as you can see, the analytical database is from 2017 to 2021. So it does not yet consider the 2025 tariff policies. And the structural impacts are well organized. There are some very interesting points like technological decoupling, policy paradigm shift, like the increased emphasis on self-reliance, and the security considerations in economic planning. Okay, then there is a general conclusion. Let's go to the next step. Okay, so considering the to-do list, I think MANUS has completed the analysis phase. So the next part is the economic modeling phase. Okay, now it goes to coding. I think it identifies all the data series as time series data. It is using the package focusing on TSA analysis, like var, and also additional tools to do the TSA analysis, and also some tools for plotting, I think. And it also sets the plotting style and so on. So it creates a base trend and add the tariff shock effects. There is also application of tariff effects to the trend, then creating the data frame. But I think maybe it is using some hypothetical data here. Let's check the results. Okay, we can see, first of all, there are some statistical tests about different models. We can see the p-value, critical value, and so on. But there is an execution error, so MANUS is trying to solve it. Now it has updated the program file. We see there are some changes. Yeah, but I'm not sure the exact reason to change the simulation numbers. Okay, now we have the results of different TSA models. Eventually, we have an error about plotting, so it will take some time to debug. Now it goes back to editing the code. Yeah, so I think we're starting to see some mismatch of the granularity of the data. For example, like in the previous data gathering phase, we saw that it gathered the annual data, and now for the IRF, it changes to quarterly data. I mean, in general, it makes sense that if we have more data, the models will make more sense. But there is a lack of continuity. I mean, at least in the previous step, it could already gather some quarterly data for the analysis. Okay, now it goes back to running the models, but here is still another error, so it will go back to debug it. Now it goes back to change the code. I mean, regarding the code generation and the debugging, running of the code, its efficiency is much lower than the Agentic IDE. For example, like Cursor, Windsurf, TRAE, and so on, and also Climb in VS Code. Let's see if we still have some error. Now the error has gone. I think we can move to the next step. All right. Now we see some RIF analysis. I think if it is based on the hypothetical numbers, it will not make any sense for us to utilize these results. But from a pure technical point of view, I think it correctly gets the models to be utilized in the IRF. Then we're seeing some additional plots like FEVD analysis. Okay, so basically FEVD is forecast error variance decomposition analysis. It is used to understand the influence of shocks to one variable on the forecast error variance of other variables in the system over time. So I would say the IRF part and also the shock analysis part is comprehensive, but the reference data has some issues. Okay, now it's updating the to-do list. Economic modeling phase, I think it has completed. Also, it says consider alternative economic models if appropriate. I'm not sure if it will execute that. Validate model. Yeah, good point. Let's see if it will execute. Now let's take a look. I think it actually goes to visualization phase. So economic modeling phase, it is left in some subtasks unfinished and move on to the next step. And we can see this is a visualization program, and I think it will not take much time to generate the plots. So I think we are reaching to the final stage very soon. Okay, so additional data visualization created. So I think the next step is to visualize it and move to the final report compilation. I think now we have spent more or less 1 hour 20 minutes until now. So I think 1 hour 40 minutes would be the total time spent on this project. Okay, as we can see on the left hand side, it is compiling a comprehensive report on the findings. So it is not showing any of the plots created in the visualization step. So first thing it goes to do is to edit the to-do list and then execute the remaining subtasks. Okay, so now we are looking at some plots showing the trajectory of GDP data and also trade balance data, and the key tariff events are marked. These visualizations are good for us to understand our research objective. And there is also the plots about the relationship between exports and manufacturing output. I don't really understand why it introduces this relationship plot because it has nothing to do with the tariff impact analysis. But regarding the exports, manufacturing as a percentage of GDP, exports and imports, it shows the time series data and also marked the tariff time points. Then we are checking the pre-tariff vs post-tariff economic indicators, average values, and also the indicator growth rates. Trade balance growth rate has dropped significantly after the implementation of the tariffs. Then we are seeing the GDP volatility, export volatility, rolling standard deviation, and so on. In general, the effects around 2020 is more significant, but we should bear in mind in 2020 we have also the global health events, the COVID, which kind of disrupts the global economy. To get further analysis, we should also consider additional factors during such periods. Okay, so in this step, I think it says viewing image, but it has taken some minutes now in this visualization step. I think it has spent some time on drafting the comprehensive report. However, what we were seeing is that it was spending much more time in viewing image, but I think in reality it was spending more time on compiling the comprehensive report. We see that there is a executive summary, table of contents, looks good, the structure, introduction, and also what are the key questions to address, to answer in this analysis, and the introduction, timeline, analytical methodology, data collection, analytical approaches, economic modeling framework. Yeah, basically everything we have seen through the whole process. And let's see the IRF analysis. Okay, negative export shock, partial recovery in the short term, negative effects in the second term, stabilization, cumulative effects, GDP impact around 0.5 to 0.8 below baseline. Okay, the analysis looks good, but again, to validate the results, we need to go back to check the code, check the execution order of the task to make sure it is giving us useful, accurate information. As we saw before, if the data was generated by simulation, it is not very useful for us to understand the real situation or to utilize the analytical results here. Okay, so after drafting the final report, it goes back to editing the to-do list. Okay, it actually marked most of the stages completed. There are additional subtasks at this moment not done. Let's see. Okay, so on the left hand side, we can see after editing the to-do list, it goes to execute the command. I think it is saving the different figures, plots, and reviewing and finalizing comprehensive report on Trump's tariff policy and their impact on the Chinese economy by organizing visualization files. Okay, only 2 steps left to finish. Let's see if my estimation is right. So now we have spent 1 hour 35 minutes. Okay, now we see the final report MD file. Yeah, I think compared to the previous version, it actually deleted some data, make it shorter maybe. So let's see, this is the final report MD. There is also the comprehensive report MD. By the look of it, it might be more concise than the previous version. And now on the left hand side, we can see it says, I've completed the comprehensive analysis of Trump administration tariff policies and their impact on the Chinese economy. The reports include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. And analysis reveals that while China experienced immediate negative shocks to exports, manufacturing, and GDP growth following tariff implementation, the economy demonstrated resilience through policy adjustments, supply chain diversification, and domestic market expansion. The tariffs accelerated structural economic changes in China and contributed to shifts in global trade relationships, though their effectiveness as a policy tool for addressing trade imbalances remain questionable. Okay, in general, this final conclusion looks good and solid. I mean, at least it matches to our common sense or initial judgment on such economic analytical results. And here we can see one final report attached, and also you have the option to view all the files in this task, all the plots, all the documentations here. You can also see the different category like documents, image, code files, links. Okay, unfortunately for links now it's empty. It would be better if we always see links. And for images, it also shows the timestamp, how many minutes ago it was created. So it is organized in a chronological order, but it would be better to categorize it to different sections. And also for the documents, which documents are utilized to finish which section of the project. If we can have that structural visualization, it could be better. Otherwise, it's a bit messy. Eventually, we have this final report. Let's check. Okay, just like what we saw in the empty file, this final report is well structured. Okay, first of all, executive summary, table of contents, introduction, timeline, and apart from the textual information, there are also plots attached after the specific section, like here. Okay, and then about the further data collection and analysis. Okay, and also here we can see the plots corresponding to this part and the long-term impacts on the economy. Let's see. Okay, also here we have the plots, although please be prudent on utilizing such analytical results, because agentic workflow on the machine learning task, there are still some rooms to improve, because as you can see, these trends are quite simplified. And although it is simplified, I would say if we can see some confidence band around the projected data, it could be more useful for us to visualize and to understand the situation and the projections, or make the results more robust. And IRF analysis, okay, using the VAR model, and we have the export shock descriptions here. Okay, so the IRF analysis, as I said before, it could be using hypothetical data, so not 100% reliable. If you are utilizing this result, you need to check for more details. Then comparative analysis pre-tariff and post-tariff periods. Okay, so basically, as you can see here, for average values of different economic indicator, the change is not indicating a negative impact. But if we are seeing the growth rate part, most of them are indicating negative impact of the tariff policies. But interpreting economic data, we always need to bear in mind that there are additional factors that could be important but omitted in current analytical settings. And also structure indicator comparison. I think this is quite impressive, that MANUS identified the structural indicator could be important to identify for our analysis, and also these plots to indicate the pre and post tariff economic indicator change. Then we see the volatility analysis and the business planning challenges. Okay, looks good. Policy response patterns. We have counter-cyclical measures, sectoral support, regulatory forbearance. Yeah, it's just descriptions about the different response measures, but it's not clear if here it means a suggestion to the policymaker or it is citing the previous documentations or citing some information source to say that it actually happened. So it is quite ambiguous here. And here we see the regional volatility disparities. After my quick check, there is no code or data relevant to such detailed data, analytical results of different regions and so on. But it might have generated such results from language model or other source we do not see here. And then we see also the volatility analysis. I mean, generally speaking, I think this volatility analysis is spot on, but validation of the data and also the code behind could be some heavy work for us to do after seeing these reports. So then this is a structural change in Chinese economy. Yes, these are the plots we saw before, although the linear regression part, I'm not so convinced if it is useful. Conclusion and the implications. It just summarized the key points. I think this is clear because policy implications is just some general descriptions focusing on giving the policymakers some useful reference. But previously, as you saw, one part that it describes the situation or implications, but without saying that what is that part used to. It is describing the past event or suggesting solution. I think there are some adjustments needed to be done. Future research directions. Okay, looks good. And again, this doubtful IRF plot. And eventually we see there are different references. Okay, there are many papers, journals cited, but during the visualization of the sandbox operations, we do not see all the references. For example, like this one, a model of China's state capitalism. Let's check if we have, no, for sure here we do not see it. And for the links, we do not see it. But I do not recall during the process there is any part mentioning this journal. I think in the end, before we utilize such results generated by tools like MANUS, Agentic workflow tool, we need to validate all the report details, the data gathered, are they reliable or not, machine learning or economic modeling models, if they are doing the right job, and also the citations, and also the wordings, and clear structure and intents of the textual information. I think we all need to pay attention to and validate before utilizing such results. So a good thing for this completion of the project is that we just let MANUS do the job for us. The downside is that the validation by human is a heavy job. Okay. In the end, there is also another function, share MANUS creation as an interactive website. We can do that, or we can share a replay of your task. I think I'll share public access. Okay. I think I'll save this link. Share my replay in the official use case gallery. Okay, also shared. And let's create the website. Now it goes to create the website to showcase the analysis. Suggested knowledge. knowledge enables MANUS to learn your preferences and task-specific best practices. MANUS will automatically recall relevant knowledge when needed. Supports up to 20 entries. Now it is working. Let's take a look. Okay, it actually starts from here, set up website. Now we see the HTML file. It is actually putting all the analytical components in this HTML file, both textual information and also plots, I think. And let's see. Okay, then the styles CSS file. So let me check the time spent until this moment. I think we are about to reach 2 hours, but there are some additional times I spent to check the final report roughly and also initiated the new task of creating website. Okay, so I think there will be multiple HTML file to be created because we had the index, now we have the timeline and so on. So it will take some time. Now it goes to short-term HTML about the short-term analysis. Now the long-term HTML. So let's check for a moment for the report. Okay, so basically we might be expecting short-term, long-term, and then IRF, then comparative, volatility analysis, structure change, and then a conclusion HTML. Now we are in the modeling HTML creation, then conclusion. So it does not follow the structure of the report. So I think it actually considers the focus again and listed these parts as the focused sections of the display of the website. Now there are additional files to be edited, and I think we are almost at the finishing line. Let's check. Okay, so basically we started again from this step to create a website. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps to complete. Now it is working on deploying the website permanently. In the meantime, it also goes back to edit the index file to add some sections about enhance the UI and additional modifications. I have reached to the limit of 1000 credits. By far, we have completed the project of generating the final report, and when we wanted to create the website and deploy it, we could not reach to the final step because at here, as you can see, at the deploying stage, the credits have been used up. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to share the links so you can check and understand how the agentic workflow works inside of MANUS. So in general, I think the performance is impressive, but it takes a lot of time to complete each step. And also, there are many points that we should check carefully and deeply before we utilize the final results. Thank you for watching this video and experienced the MANUS product with me. I wish it would be useful for you to get a glimpse of the agentic workflow tools to help you complete a project. There could be many additional use cases you can try with this tool. If you have an invitation link, please go to check it, and please do not forget to check the results carefully. I think the more important thing at a current stage in the market is to test experiments and understand the general design and also see where we can improve in the future stage. As a user now, what I see is the user interface and many things are happening under the hood. So I would suggest you to keep updated with the new research and how we improve the large language models, multi-modality models in the backend, and also how we better design agentic workflow in the future. I wish you like this video. Please share the video with your friends, subscribe to my channels, check the different links in my link tree page, support my channel, and there will be more videos published in the future days. So thank you again, and see you next time. Bye bye.